this is a nice crowd. This is a very nice crowd. Wow. And you have to see all of the people that are outside. They can't get in because you've taken their place. That's not nice. That's not nice. Hello, Richmond. I'm thrilled to be back in the beautiful Virginia. We love Virginia. How much? We're going to make a big play for Virginia. You know that. And I think we can do it. We win Virginia. We win it 100%. It's over. The election would be over, so let's do it, right? Let's do it. We're going to be here. We've always done well here. But I'm with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots. That's what you are. That's what we all are. That's what we all are. Over the past week, it's been sort of in a rocket. We've been launching like a rocket to the Republican nomination. We just got numbers today that were unbelievable, but we won Iowa in a record, New Hampshire in a record. In Iowa, we got the highest vote count ever ×2. In New Hampshire, we had the most votes in the history of the New Hampshire primary. That covers a lot of territory. For both parties, by the way. Got a lot of people up there, like the Kennedy clan, etc. Nevada, we won in a record. You saw that, 97%. The Virgin Islands, we took that one in a record. We got a record so far. Let's keep it going. And 1 week ago, we won South Carolina, beating the ex-governor by an unprecedented number and getting double the number of votes of any previous candidate in history. South Carolina. We love South Carolina. And as you know, today we have 2 contests, Missouri and the remainder of Michigan. You know, we won Michigan by a lot, but that was about a third. But today it looks like we're winning close to 100% of both Missouri and Michigan, adding on to the last 2 total. Last Tuesday, Michigan total was a record, but now we're adding on the rest. So we won almost, I guess, close to 90% of the vote. What's going on here? This is getting to be crazy, right? This is getting to be pretty wild. And it's a great honor, I'll tell you, because we have to let them know we're coming for them. We're coming on November 5th, Joe's. Crooked, sleepy Joe. Crooked, sleepy. I like that. I like that. Crooked, sleepy. We'll call it, maybe we'll call them both. You know, I took the name off Hillary Crooked. I wanted to use it for Joe because I thought it was very accurate. But I got rid of Sleepy, and Sleepy was good. But how about Crooked, Sleepy Joe? You know, you could do a double. That's what you got. Next up, as you know, Super Tuesday. Without any big lessons in anything, that means Tuesday coming up, March 5th, just 3 days from now, and it's time for the Commonwealth of Virginia to finally have your say and get it done the way you want to have it done. Get out and vote. Got to get out and vote. We want to send a big signal, so it's important. I mean, we don't need your vote. We want you to get out, though, and vote in big margins. And we want to send that little freight train going along because it's going to be the big day, the biggest day in the history of our country is November 5th. That's the biggest day because our country is being destroyed by an incompetent president, a corrupt president, the worst president we've ever had. The worst we've ever had. And we want to send a signal. We need each and every one of you to get every patriot that you know and turn them out to vote. You have to do this on Tuesday and just turn them out and vote in big numbers. It's going to send a signal. You know, the New York Times came out with a poll. They just announced it. Devastating for the New York Times. They don't like doing that. Well, I give them credit. I gave them credit. You know, the Washington Post came out with a big poll a couple of months ago, and they wanted to know, was there a mistake? Oh, please let there be. There's no mistake. New York Times has us way up over crooked Joe Biden, way, way, way up. And one of the greatest things was really one aspect of the poll was where they say really great excitement and enthusiasm for the candidate, almost 50%. That's a tremendous number. The rest are, oh, he's good. But I mean, super enthusiasm, that's a number that people just don't get. So I'm honored, and we're all honored, because we're all in this mess together. Let's face it, this country is a mess. We got 15, 16 million people came in, and they came in from prisons and jails. They came in from mental institutions and insane asylums. They're terrorists, they're drug dealers. We are really going to be a very different country. We have to have it stopped. With your help, we will win big on Super Tuesday, and this November, Virginia is going to tell crooked Joe Biden, you're fired, you're fired, get out of here. Get out of here, get out of the White House. Should have never been in the White House. He should have never been in the White House. We wouldn't be in this mess, but he should have never been there, and everybody in this room knows it. They go after the guys that complain about the election, not the guys that rigged the election. Isn't that interesting, right? Among my very first actions upon taking office will be, quite simply, to seal the border and stop the invasion of our country. 2 days ago, I was with Governor Greg Abbott at the Texas border. He's doing a really good job to witness the total devastation that crooked Joe Biden and his stupid policy of open borders. Who would do this to? Who would do this? No country would do this. What it's done to us as a country, our border is an open and gushing wound, pouring drugs, gangs, terrorists, and millions of illegal aliens into our country, many, many people that are not supposed to be in our country. So unfair to people that are online for 10 years. They study, they work, they do everything right, and then they see millions of people come in with no recourse, no nothing, no retribution. Yet crooked Joe is fighting the state of Texas to stop them from defending our border. They're doing a job for the country. They're actually cutting the wire fences open to let thousands of migrants come pouring in, the migrants that they have no idea they're from parts unknown. You know what that means, parts unknown? They're coming from the Congo. They come from all parts of Africa, Asia, the Middle East. Last night they had 4 from the Congo. Where in the Congo do you live? I wonder what beautiful place do you live in the Congo? We are from prison. What did you do? Murder. They're in the United States right now, right? This is what they're allowing. But it's Africa, it's Asia, it's the Middle East, it's people that we're bombing. Here goes Biden again with the bombing. You don't have to bomb. You don't have to bomb. We can get it done with a phone call. We had no, let me tell you. A properly placed phone call can work miracles, can it? We did plenty of them. We didn't have to bomb, and we didn't have to spend the money and the killing and everything else, and the world hates us to a level that you've never seen. Remember, I kept you out of wars, except I did defeat ISIS very strongly. We defeated ISIS. We took them. Al-Baghdadi, Soleimani. We did a number that nobody's ever seen. It was going to take 4 to 5 years, they said, in Washington. It would take 4 to 5 years. I did it in 4 weeks. We knocked them out. General Raisin Cane, right? Raisin Cane. We knocked him out in 4 weeks. And that was 100% of the ISIS caliphate. The ISIS caliphate, they said, was going to take years to do. We did it in 4 weeks. When I'm president, instead of trying to send Texas a restraining order, I will send them reinforcements. Three years ago, we had the safest and most secure border in the United States history. We had the best border in the history of our country. We ended catch and release, except when we did catch and release into Mexico. We had catch and release into Mexico. Used to be we'd catch a criminal and release him into our country. We caught criminals, we released them into Mexico. That was much better. We built 571 miles of border wall and got Mexico to send us 28,000 soldiers to guard our border free of charge. You think that was easy? You think that was easy? I said to the president, we need you to give us free of charge 28,000 soldiers. No, 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 Donald, I will not do that. I said, no, no, you have to do it. He's a great guy, by the way, but you know, he's a tough negotiator. And I said, no, no, you have to do it. No, we would not do. Why would we do such a thing? He's right, actually, you know. But I said, look, if you don't do it, we're going to put a 25% tariff on every car that you make, send in, and every product that you make. And then they said, Donald, it would be a great honor to do it. Mr. President, it would be a great honor to supply you with 28,000 soldiers. I can think of nothing I'd rather do, they said. Now we had 28,000 Mexican soldiers stopping people from coming in. And, you know, once we did that, all of a sudden, it all stopped. The caravan stopped. It all stopped because now they're doing a lot of work for us. And this guy Biden ended that. He ended Remain in Mexico. How about Remain in Mexico? Is that good? You think that was easy to get? Check out Tijuana. This was a crowded place. That was probably the fastest growing city in history. It was, what a mess that was. But they weren't in the United States. We had Remain in Mexico, Safe Third Agreements, asylum bans, Title 42, and a thing called rapid removal. Do you know what that means? You don't have to be too smart to know. Rapid removal. They come in, we rapidly remove them from our country. If you broke in, we caught you, we detained you, and we deported you very quickly. It was like clockwork. We had the greatest border. We had the safest border in history. Let there be no doubt, this is Joe Biden's invasion. This is Joe Biden's destruction of our country. If you take the 10 worst presidents in history and add them up and put them together, nobody has done the destruction to our country as this incompetent president that we have right now. And you know this, you've heard enough of the talk. I have great respect for the office of the president, for the presidency, tremendous respect. When I won, I went to the White House and I stood with our great First Lady opposite the Lincoln bedroom, and I said, do you believe this? Can you believe this? Because it takes a while. It's like a surreal experience, but it was so incredible. I have great respect for that whole thing. That's so beautiful. But then he did something that was undoable. Every critic, even the really bad radical left press that are back there, the enemy of our country, the radical left press said they'll never indict him on this stuff. He can't be indicted. They said it'll never happen. It'll never happen. They have no legal grounds, but they did. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. I got 4 indictments, more than Al Capone, the most vicious mobster in history. The great Alphonse Capone. I use him as the example because he's like the ultimate. If he took you to dinner and you smiled at him the wrong way, he would kill you. By the time you got home, you were dead. He was indicted twice. Trump got indicted 4 times. My parents are looking down. They said, what the hell happened to our boy? What happened to him? But think of that, the biggest gangster of them all, Alphonse Capone, he's probably looking down and saying, that guy's actually a very nice person. I can't believe it. But he did this, and the press and all of the legal pundits said you can't. I mean, take a look. I was indicted by Fannie in Georgia, Fannie. How did that work out? And her lover, Nathan Wade. And they hired him for almost $1 million because of his great, great experience. Of course, he didn't have any experience. He had experience in something else. You know that. A lot of And at that, I'm quite sure he was very good based on the fact that she called him 2,000 times. I didn't know the gentleman. I didn't know him. Oh, you have 2,000 phone calls, 3,500 text messages. How is it possible in a short, I know a lot of people, we like a lot of people. I happen to have a very good relationship with a woman called Melania. But I would venture to say in all the years that I've known her, I might not have called her 2,500 times. I know I didn't send 3,500 text messages. And they did this in a very short period. But they knew each other long before this indictment. So you look at that one, that's so terrible. The boxes hoax. Well, Joe Biden had more boxes than any human being ever. And they let him off. Of course, I wouldn't want to be let off that way. They say he's incompetent. We'll let him off. So I don't like that. But I also come under the Presidential Record Act, which gives you absolute rights to do it. He didn't have the Presidential Records Act. And then you look at January 6th. It was a rigged election, and we're looking at it, and almost everybody in this room agrees. It was a rigged election, and that rigged election destroyed our country. And then we have the DA in Manhattan, who is actually run by the DOJ. You know, they put their top guy into the DA's office to run the DA. The whole thing is so corrupt. Fannie is just the beginning. It's not really, excuse me, I'd like to apologize to Fannie. It's F-A-N-I. She pronounces it Fawny. I don't see it. To me, it's Fannie. The very first bill that Crooked Joe sent to Congress was a bill to turn illegal aliens into voting citizens. Now he's pushing another mass amnesty plan while calling it border security. He's saying mass amnesty. We're going to go border security. Let's call it. That was like some of the bills he passed, right? Do you remember the bills he passed? He put phony names on the bills because it sounded good. It wasn't good. The Inflation Reduction Act, right? And then he admitted after it got passed, it actually has nothing to do with inflation reduction. It actually has to do with inflation increase. Okay, it was a fake bill. The bill Joe Biden wants passed would give him unlimited power to grant asylum to millions and millions and millions of illegals. You know what they call them now, right? You know, they changed the name as of yesterday. You know what they call them? Newcomers. It's No, the word is newcomers. We're not allowed to say it's politically incorrect. This political incorrect stuff is killing us. From now on, you have to call them newcomers or you will be indicted by the DOJ in Washington. They will indict you immediately, the DOJ. No, they said last night, we are going to call the people that came into our country. We used to call them illegal aliens. We call them a lot of different names. But newcomers is a step too far. But they are newcomers from now on. Please, everybody, call them. Does everybody agree with that? Newcomers. I'm shocked to hear that. The Biden border bill, well, you know this, right? The Biden border bill would turbocharge the continued invasion of our country, and therefore his plan would totally demolish Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, health care, and all of public education. And you know they're going to be getting all of these things that are already in trouble, and they're going to destroy all of that. And you see what's going on in New York? They have pupils from foreign countries, from countries where they don't even know what the language is. We have nobody that even teaches it. These are languages that nobody ever heard of. They're sitting in the school chairs of people, of kids that were there, and those kids aren't able to go to school any longer. There's no place they can go. They're taking the school, and they don't speak a word of English. So the teacher's up there teaching, and they don't know what the hell is going on. Our country is being laughed at all over the world. But I will not let him destroy Social Security. I will not let him crash Medicare. I will not let him turn our public schools into migrant camps, which is what they're doing. And I will not let him turn the USA into a crime-filled, disease-ridden dumping ground. You know, people with terrible, terrible disease that is easily caught. I have to say, they're pouring into our country in addition to everything else. It's so crazy. Who would want this? Think of it. Who would want this? Open borders where people are allowed to come in from mental institutions and jails. Who would want this? Who would? Is there something good? I guess the only thing I can say is they're trying to sign them up to get them to vote in the next election. That's all it is. But they don't really need that, because what they do is they just use blank ballots. You know, they just drop ballots. So they don't really have to destroy our country for that, although when you use blank ballots, I would say that's also destroying our country, wouldn't you say? Every day, Joe Biden is giving aid and comfort to the foreign enemies of the United States. Biden's conduct on our border is, by any definition, a conspiracy to overthrow the United States of America. That's what's happening. The anger, the hatred, the fear. Biden and his accomplices, and that's what it is. It's really more the accomplices. I mean, the guy can't put two sentences together. He can't find the stairs to a platform. I have to be careful. You know, every time I do that, my wife called. I said, "How good was that speech tonight? I had 29,000 people. How good was that?" She said, "It was good, darling, but they said you had a terrible time finding your way off the platform." So every time I do that, or I'll say, "Our president, Barack Hussein Obama," now I do that because, you know, that makes a point. Do we understand that, right? Because a lot of people say he's running the country. I don't personally think so. But it is being run by a group of radical left thugs that circle the beautiful desk, the Resolute desk, one of the most beautiful desks in the world. It's been badly stained by the occupant right now. But, you know, but when I say Barack Hussein Obama, the president of our country, on the news that night they go, "Donald Trump didn't know the name of our president. He said it was President Obama. It's President Biden." So I have to be very, very careful. I have to be very, very careful. We have many of them. I purposely mix up like a name like Bird Brain. You know who Bird Brain is, right, Nikki? With Nancy Pelosi. I put them in because they're interchangeable in my mind. And except I have to say, I shouldn't say this about a semi-Republican, but I think Pelosi's probably a little bit smarter, actually. It's too bad to say. But you know what? So you interchange them, and then they go out with stories. I cannot be sarcastic, so I try not to be. I just did that thing for the first time in like 2 weeks because it's a disaster. Guaranteed, the fake news, the enemy of the people, will say he could not find his way off the stage. So we have to be very careful. Between that and AI, we got a lot of problems coming. Biden and his accomplices want to collapse the American system, nullify the will of the actual American voters, and establish a new base of power that gives them absolute control over you. And I think it's less Biden than the fascists that are in the office, because I don't think Biden knows where the hell he is. Okay, I think the last thing he's thinking about is let's take the country for a ride for the next 20 years. I don't think so. He wants to be around to make it. Who thinks he's going to make it? Who thinks he's going to make it to November 5th? All right, let's do a poll. This is a poll of people with common sense. You know, I don't even say conservative so much. You're conservative, but what are we really? We're people with common sense. We want to have borders. We want to have a free, fair election. We don't want to have crazy forms of counting our vote. We want to have paper ballots, same-day voting, voter ID, nice and simple. I like that group over there. Is there anything better, think of this, than a Trump rally in Virginia? Is there anything? No. You know, I just left. I just did, I did another one of these. You think this is easy doing this? I had a nice life. I didn't have to do this. I had such a nice life, and then I would deal with these sick people. And China, Russia, North Korea, all of these countries, they're easy compared to dealing with the radical left lunatics in the United States. The easy part. Somebody said, is it tough dealing with China? I said, it's tougher dealing with the crazies in the U.S. It is true. We want to impeach him for making a perfect phone call. I made a perfect call. It turned out to be that call turned out to be much more perfect than people think. I was exactly right on that call. I got impeached for making a perfect phone call. Crooked Joe will not succeed with these plans, and he will not get away with these crimes and their crimes. He will be tried at the ballot box this November, and he will be judged and convicted by the American people. Under Biden, we now have a new category of crime. You know what it's called? It's called migrant crime. And this category is turning out to be worse than any crime we've ever had in our country. I saw things that I've never thought. These are tough people that come over, and they do. They come out of prisons, they come out of these institutions, and they're rough people. These are rough people. The only good thing is they make our criminals look like relatively nice people, okay? I saw something in New York. I've never seen it before. I've seen guys sort of, run and hit a cop and run away. They were having fistfights with the cops in the middle of Madison Avenue. Fistfights where the cops are at. These guys are at. They were from Venezuela. And you know how long they'd last in Venezuela if they did that in Venezuela? I'd say they'd be alive for about 2 minutes before they got shot. But we have a little different way. We have a politically correct atmosphere. But what the people that they're sending into this country, it's not the deal. And we have a new form of crime. It's migrant crime. I was going to call it Biden migrant crime. But if you do that, it's too long. It doesn't work. It's like I have a new name for Gavin Newsom. I have a new name. Do you know what it is, right? Does anybody know what it is? New scum. New scum. Gavin Newsom. I don't know if it's good or bad. We'll find out. I'd love to run against him, actually. This guy says California's doing so well. It's not doing well. It's doing horribly, actually. Now, Gavin Newsom. Last week, a beautiful 22-year-old nursing student in Georgia, beautiful, beautiful girl. I spoke with her parents yesterday. Beautiful, beautiful person. Laken Riley was barbarically attacked while she was out on a morning run. She wanted to keep herself in great shape. Beautiful person. She was brutally assaulted, horrifically beaten, kidnapped, and savagely murdered, almost beyond recognition. Almost beyond, think of it, almost beyond recognition. The monster charged in her death is an illegal alien migrant who was led into our country and released into our communities by crooked Joe Biden. Wouldn't have come in because we had a very tough policy on, especially the criminals. We were watching them all. We had the safest border in the history of our country. Now we have the worst border in the history of the world. We mourn this terrible loss, and we send our love to Laken's family. I spoke with the mother and the father. The devastation is just like incredible. What can you say? It's hard to talk to people. They've just been devastated. The thing that the person, the element of life that they love the most was just taken away from them, taken away. Maybe in heaven they meet again, maybe in heaven. But other than that, there's no hope of ever seeing her again. And she was beautiful. The mother said, oh, she was such a good student. She was the best nurse in her class. She was going to be a great nurse. I said, I know. So devastating. Had the funeral, and it's just, they can never be the same. Just last month in suburban Maryland, outside Washington, D.C., a 2-year-old boy was out walking with his mother in a public park when they were caught in the crossfire of a gun battle between two vicious thugs. That 2-year-old boy was struck. A bullet struck him in a very bad location. The illegal alien migrant charged with his murder had been previously arrested multiple times by different police forces and released every time under Montgomery County, Maryland sanctuary law, very liberal laws in Montgomery County, as you probably know. His murder is blood in the hands of Joe Biden and every Democrat who fought to preserve sanctuary cities. They're very dangerous. They're very bad, very bad. In Washington, D.C. last month, 3 Metropolitan police officers were savagely shot and gravely wounded by an illegal alien barricaded in an apartment, shot him, and just surprise attack. And you know, 3 weeks ago, a young man who worked for me in the White House, fantastic young man, was carjacked, and rather than saying, "Get out of your car," he just shot him right through the head and killed him almost instantly, died the following day. Great person. Everybody that was in my administration, they loved him. The wife, the family. The wife was walking to the car. He was picking up the wife where she worked, and this guy came up, wanted the car, and shot him, and he died right in front of the wife. And this is our capital. We're going to change it. We're going to change it around. We're going to be so tough. And last year, a sadistic illegal alien released by crooked Joe Biden was arrested for raping an 11-year-old girl in Texas and strangling her to death after knocking on the door of her home. Her father later discovered her body badly beaten and stuffed under her bed. The father came home and found her like that. No one more innocent. We're not going to have one more innocent American life. It just can't, we can't let this go on. Migrant crime is going to be at a level that we've never seen crime before. We have bad crime, but now you can add this to it. They've let 15 million people, I'll tell you, that's what I think the number is, and I think it's going to be 18 million by the time we get the worst president in our history out of office. This is why a central question in this election is whether the foreign armies of Joe Biden is smuggled across our border. He's letting armies of people come in, military age. They smuggle them across our border. They walk into our border. They don't even have to smuggle anymore. For a while, they were smuggling. Now they're not smuggling. They just walk across and do whatever they want. We are not going to allow them to stay in our country. We don't want to see what's going on. Why is it? We're going to get them out. We're going to take them out, get out and go home. But we're going to, if we have to, we're going to get them home. Or we're going to have to do worse than that. I don't want to fill up our prisons. I don't want to fill up our prisons. You know, our prisons are already full with other people's prisoners. You have to see the prison population all over the world is at the lowest point it's been in many decades because they're dumping their prisoners into our country. Doesn't this stupid guy understand this? And it makes sense. It makes so much sense. If I were running Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Mexico, or the Congo, or any country, Brazil, a lot coming in from Brazil, a lot coming in from Venezuela, nothing more expensive than storing a prisoner in a jail for 60 years. But of course, they don't spend quite as much as us. They spend very little. When you go in those jails, it's the worst that you can imagine. But how does he allow this to happen? Anybody would say it. I said it a long time ago. As soon as I heard what they were doing, I said, oh, they're going to end up emptying. I know all these guys. I know many of them. And they're very streetwise, smart people. You know, they're streetwise. Joe's not streetwise. Joe is just a dumb guy. He's a dumb guy. Nobody respects him. He's lost. And again, I never talked about him until I got indicted 4 times on charges that should have never been brought. These are all Biden indictments. If Joe Biden's illegal alien migrants do not go back to their countries, we will never get our country back. So if you elect Donald J. Trump on November 5th, most important day in our history, remember that. I promise you they'll be going back to their countries. I don't know if you saw Maduro in Venezuela 2 days ago. they sent many of their criminals and their jailbirds. I'm sure some are fine people, but they all come out of jail, or they people that they don't want. They keep the ones they want. You know that, right? They keep a lot of productive people. They're not going to lose them. They're like every other country. You want to have certain people. Maybe you don't want to have others. We don't have a choice because we take everybody's discards. So Venezuela made the statement that we're going to send them out to the United States, and we're never going to accept them back. We're never going to accept them back. And when I got to the White House, you remember that, I was met by generals. I said, get these people out, MS-13. They say, sir, they won't allow them back in. I said, yes, they will. He said, no, they won't. El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala, 3 countries. And I said, what do you mean they won't? Under the Biden administration, meaning vice president, because he was supposed to be in charge, but everything he's in charge of doesn't work out. His foreign policy is the worst of any human being in history. Look at Afghanistan, the worst. But under Obama and Biden, they couldn't get him back in. And I was told by the general, sir, they won't accept him. I said, which countries? They named those 3 countries. So I say, how much foreign aid do we give them? Sir, we give them approximately $750 million a year. Now, that's peanuts compared to what we give others, okay? We give to everybody. We're stupid. But they give $750 million. So I said, that's all right. They won't take them back, right? Yeah, you watch. I immediately cut off all funds going to those 3 countries. The next day, almost simultaneously, but separate, I got calls from the heads, presidents of those 3 countries. Sir, I understand there's a misunderstanding. I said, yeah, you won't take the people back that you sent over to us, because they send them, don't, you know, the caravans, they put the people in there, murderers, drug dealers. I said, yeah, you don't understand? Well, you understand because you won't let them in. You know, we'd send plane loads of people from Honduras or whatever, other countries too, and they'd put airplanes on the runway so the planes couldn't land. They'd close the road so the buses couldn't go. You couldn't get them in, right? You couldn't get them in. They'd come back to the United States. So stupid. So I said, you immediately cut off all foreign aid. Let them know that effective immediately, they don't get $750 million anymore. And I go to the office the next morning, and lo and behold, I have 3 phone calls. Nice guys. Look, they're smart. You know, I'd do the same thing. I would. I really would. I'd send everybody, and I wouldn't let them back either. I wouldn't let them back. But if you had a president like me, I said, President, I'd love to have them back because they're not going to have a choice. But I said, stop paying them the $750 million in foreign aid. I get 3 phone calls, separate calls. Sir, there seems to be a misunderstanding. I said, yeah, we're not paying you any more foreign aid. Why? Because you won't take back the people that you illegally sent into our country. They said, sir, we would be happy to take them back. Nobody ever told us. You know, this has gone on for 10 years, by the way. We didn't know about this particular problem, sir. We would be honored to have MS-13 brought back into our country. We love them very much. They are fine people. They are fine people. We would love to have them back in our country. And I solved that problem. And we took in thousands and thousands of gang members, MS-13 in particular, a really vicious gang. They love knives better than guns because it's more painful. They cut people up into they cut 2 beautiful high school kids, 16 years old, walking to school in Long Island. They cut them up into little pieces, and they left them. These are the people that we're allowing into our country. And thank goodness for ICE and Border Patrol and these others. ICE, they're so tough. They took them out by the thousands. You know, ICE will look at a gang of real tough cookies, and they'll go in there, and they go in swinging. You know, a lot of these people don't know that. They think, oh, let's be very nice and gentle. They don't understand that. And ICE will go in swinging, and you'll see for about 2 minutes fists flying. And then they get up and they grab these guys and they put them in a paddy wagon, they get them out, and we take them out of the country. And we got to respect that. These are great American patriots. They're tough cookies, too. Because I know some men in the front row, and they're tough guys. They're not going to do that job, I guarantee. Your husband's not doing that job. You got to be tough as hell for that. But they're great patriots. They do an incredible job. On day 1 of my administration, I will terminate every open border policy of the Biden administration, and we will begin the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. We have no choice. This is not sustainable by any country. It's no wonder Joe Biden and his thugs are so desperate to stop us. They know that we, by the way, MAGA, make America great again. The greatest movement in the history of our country. And they say, always trying to demean, well, MAGA really represents 48% of the Republican Party. No, it represents 96% and maybe 100%. We're getting rid of the Romneys of the world. We want to get Romneys and those out. But they know that we are the only ones who can stop them. We're the only ones. This is the greatest movement in the history of our country, maybe in the history of any country. Even Argentina, they went MAGA. You know Argentina, great guy. He's a big Trump guy. He loves Trump. I love him because he loves Trump. When he called, I took his call. Anybody that loves me, I like them. But he's good. And he's a MAGA guy. But it's a slightly different form of MAGA. He is Make Argentina Great Again. That's pretty good. I said, you can have that. And he is. He's doing a good job over there. He's cutting like hell. He's getting rid of a lot of waste and a lot of things, and I hope they do well, because it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful country, but I think they really have a good head man right now. He's a tough guy. But that's why they're weaponizing law enforcement for high-level election interference, because they can't get elected otherwise. Who's going to get elected? How can you get elected with high interest rates, bad education, open borders, bad elections, horrible fraudulent elections? You can only do it by cheating. That's the only way you get elected. Joe Biden goes after his political opponent. He's using that to go after his political opponent. And that does happen, never in this country before, but that does happen. But it happens in banana republics in third world countries. Joe Biden and his fascists that control him are the real threat to democracy in this country. They are a big threat, and they are corrupt. They are a big threat. He is the one. You know, they have like this standard line, Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Some advertising agency wrote that down. I'm not a threat. I'm the one that's ending the threat to democracy. Just yesterday, it was revealed that Crooked Joe's brother admitted under oath that Joe Biden personally received a massive check paid for with money that came directly from a Chinese energy company controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. Well, how about all the money that he's getting from Penn, University of Pennsylvania? I went there, the Wharton School of Finance. It's great. I went there. So Penn, they give them hundreds of millions of dollars, and Biden gets paid a lot of money by the Chinese. I'm glad that Republicans in Congress are going after the massive Biden crime, family corruption. I give them a lot of credit. I give them a lot of credit. In particular, they're going after Crooked Joe Biden, and I hope they keep doing it because he's illegally after me with the DOJ, in coordination with the district attorneys and attorney generals in the states. It's not just them. We have, as an example, Forney and her lover, Nathan Wade in Georgia, Letitia James, Judge Engoron and Merchan in New York State. Alvin Bragg, the DA, and his puppet master from the DOJ. Think of it. Think of it. Biden put his top guy, one of his top guys in the DOJ, into the DA's office in Manhattan over bullshit. His name is Colangelo. His name, and now he is essentially running the DA's office in Manhattan, and they go after me with state agencies and city agencies, but it's all run by the DOJ. It's crooked stuff, really. These are crooked people. Merrick Garland, Lisa Monaco, deranged Jack Smith, Judge Chutkin, Charles McGonigal, you know him, right? He was in charge of the Russia hoax for the FBI, Charles McGonigal. I know the name well. He was in charge of it. And they just arrested him because he received money from Russia. This can only happen to me. He's in charge of Russia, Russia, Russia. We're going to find it. We're going to get that Trump, that son of a bitch. We're going to get him. And they just got him for getting money from Russia. This is too much. And all the others in D.C., impossible for me. It's really impossible for me to get a fair trial in D.C., but that's okay. Don't worry. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. But it's all going to work out. We're going to come out so good. I'm more popular than I ever was because of these people. More popular. True. You know, we won twice. We won big in 2016, but we won much bigger with millions and millions more votes in 2020. It was a rigged election. It was a rigged election. The votes came in, then they added a lot of votes to it. You saw it. It was a rigged, totally rigged election. They know it, too. The only thing they don't want people talking about that election. Even Fox. Fox is afraid to talk about it. They're all afraid to talk about it. They don't mind going after the people looking into the rigging and knowing what happened. But they never go after the people that rigged the election, the biggest single threat. And we're going to stop it because we have no choice as a country. They cheat. They're dirty players, and we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to let it happen. They got away with something that has essentially destroyed our country. But remember, these are not legitimate indictments. These are crooked Joe Biden indictments of me, his political opponent. It's a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time, and we're not going to let them get away with it. We're going to very simply make America great again. We're not letting them we're not letting this happen. All of this is only happening because I'm running for president and leading big in all the polls. I mean, when the New York Times has this front page story tomorrow, you'll see it just came out, that Trump is killing this guy. They're not happy, I guess. Maybe they are happy. I mean, frankly, they did the best they've ever done. 4 years of Trump, they were doing much better than they do right now. So I always said, all of the fake news, look at all those people back. Whoa, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of, you know, whenever I talk about him, the red light starts going off, you know. They said, get us off the air. He's going to say something bad about us. He's going to tell CNN that their ratings stink. But in a brand new poll, it just came out, the Emerson Hill poll of the general election, we're crushing Biden in every single one of the swing states. And in the Harvard-Harris bill also just came out, we're leading crooked Joe by 6 points, which means a lot more. Because, you know, when I'm leading by 6 points, I hate to say this, I shouldn't say it, it's a little embarrassing, but when they say, who are you voting for? When they say it's none of your business, or tougher words, you know, they go the FU word. When they use the FU word, because I would never say it because we have children in here, and we have very, very sensitive ears, so I don't want to say it. My wife hates it if I use foul language. She said, darling, you should not have used a bad word. But when they use that, somebody says, who did you vote for? And you say, it's none of your business. That means you voted for Trump. So they don't count it. See, right? She's nodding. Looks, you look like a smart one, don't you? With that black dress. The radical left Democrats rigged the presidential election of 2020, and we're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election of 2024. Every time the radical left Democrats, Marxists, communists, and fascists indict me, I consider it a great badge of honor. I'm being indicted for you. I stand before you today. Not only as your past and hopefully future president, because we're going to turn this country around fast, but as a proud political dissident. I am a dissident. And I'm proud, very proud of this country. We had the greatest economy in history. Think of it. We had the strongest border in history. We were energy independent. We were going to be energy dominant. All the things we've done, we did things that nobody, we rebuilt our military. We had to give $85 billion of it to the Taliban. How about that? You build brand new equipment. They give it to the Taliban. These people are grossly incompetent. Never forget, our enemies want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you. I just happen to be standing in their way. Thank you very much. So we're delighted to be joined by some great people tonight. Former Governor of Virginia, Jim Gilmore, wherever you may be. Jim did a very good job. Did a very good job, thank you. Good governor. Congressman Matt Gaetz and Ginger, his wife. Good man. Congresswoman, and by the way, somebody who's way up in the polls, Lauren Boebert. Hi, Lauren. Great, honey, great. Republican National Committeeman Morton Blackwell. Thank you, Morton. Republican National Committee woman Patty Lyman. Radio host Jeff Katz. Jeff, you were so nice. Whoa. They like you. And radio host John Reed and Alonzo. They like you guys. Wow. I did their shows the other day, and they were so nice to me. I said, I got to announce those guys. That's great. Thank you very much, both. Thank you very much. From the very first day that we take back the White House from crooked Joe Biden, I believe we are going to have the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. You know, one of the people that I defeated along the way was saying that, oh, well, you know, one of the weaknesses to Trump is that he can only serve 4 years because I've already served 4 great years. Everybody admit, he even had said, he was a great president. But I said, let him say it again. Let him say it for about a week or so. Then I'll hit him. And I said, listen, here's the story. 4 years. I don't need 4 years or 3 years or 2 years or 1 year. I could do almost everything in less than a year. Anybody that needs 8 years, you don't want them to be your president. You don't want them to be your president. In our first term, we had record tax cuts. We had the greatest tax cuts in the history of our country, greater than the Reagan tax cuts. We had the number one in regulation cuts. That's what gave us all those jobs, and rising wages for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. All of this with no inflation. We didn't have inflation. It was a beautiful thing. Everyone was thriving under the economic policies of a gentleman known as Donald J. Trump. For our great veterans, we passed VA accountability and VA choice. Nobody thought that was possible. They were trying to do it for 58 years. 58 years. You know, accountability, we had 9,000 people in there that were sadists and thugs and hated the military people. And our military people aren't in prime time. That happens to a lot of people because they couldn't have touched them in prime time, I guarantee you that. But they'd beat them up and they'd do horrible things, and you couldn't fire them because of the civil service laws. I got that done, and we fired 9,000 horrible human beings. And on choice, we did something for 61 years. They've been after this. They were never able to get it done. I came in, I said, why don't we just let the people, you know, they were waiting for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months just to see a doctor. And they die. They become terminally ill. A lot of things, you could take a pill or you could have a tiny procedure and you'd be okay. But with time, it gets worse and worse, and people would become terminally ill. They die. I said, from now on, what we're going to do is if you don't get a doctor within 24 hours, the veterans know because we got a 92% approval rating. The highest before us was 49%, double. You go out, you get a doctor to take care of you, we pay the bill. You know, we negotiate it perhaps, but we pay the bill. And we took care of our military, and with the number of deaths were way down. And we got the highest approval rating. And it was a great thing. And you know what? It actually ended up costing us probably, if you look at it, less money, actually less. But guys were waiting for 3-4 months. Can you imagine you're sick and you have to wait for months to see a doctor? We fully rebuilt the U.S. military and created Space Force, and I was the first president in decades who started no new wars. Instead, I brought our troops back home. No new wars. No new wars. We don't need the wars, foreign lands, countries you've never heard of, countries that don't even want us there. No, we were crazy what we did. We had these endless wars. They go on for 21, 22 years, spending billions and billions of dollars. If they listened to me with Afghanistan, we would have been back a long time ago. A long time ago, the Taliban, you know that story, but the Taliban, I dealt with Abdul. I said, Abdul, you're killing our soldiers. You're not going to kill any more of our soldiers. On the phone, the press went crazy. They said, why does he speak to Abdul? Because that's where the death was, you know? Jesse James, why do you rob the banks? Because that's where the money is, you stupid people. That's where the death was. I said, Abdul, he's still there. He's the head of the Taliban. He said, you're killing our soldiers. Don't do it anymore because terror will rain down on you. And he called you, yes, Your Highness. He called me Your Highness, which is interesting. But he said, yes, I understand. For 18 months, we didn't have one soldier killed in Afghanistan. For 18 months. And then we had a rigged election, and this stupid fool took over, and we had that horrible airlift. He said, we'll never have anything like Vietnam. This thing blew Vietnam away with the people on the airplane from 3,000 feet up. They start falling off the plane. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after we win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. I know them both very well. And we will restore peace through strength. Get that war settled. It's a bad war. And Putin, you know, has so little respect for Obama that he's starting to throw around the nuclear word today. You heard that, nuclear. He's starting to talk nuclear weapons today. I was waiting for that to happen. But we have a fool as a president. He said, we will never leave until there is complete and total victory. We might be there for a long time. No, we have a fool. I'll get that thing settled. I know both men very well. Remember that Zelensky was the one I was talking to on the phone. And when they called him, they said, no, he was a perfect gentleman. Remember, they said I was threatening him, quid pro quo. All bullshit. It was all made up. Then they heard, after they had given their whole case, they heard that the call was taped. I called the general. I say, by any chance was my call to Zelensky taped? Yes, sir, it was. I said, you got to be kidding. This is too good. Bring it up. And I listened to it, and it was the exact opposite of what they were saying. It was just thank you and congratulations for your win, you know, et cetera, et cetera. It was a perfect phone call. But they had already gone out, and they impeached me over nothing. They impeached me over something where I was right, because I talked about corruption in Ukraine. We actually have a treaty where you are supposed to be keeping that whole thing honest, because it is a very corrupt country. It's got a lot of problems, very corrupt country. With your vote, we will throw out Bidenomics. Biden, he thinks that's a good term. And we will reinstate Maganomics. We want Maganomics. Make America great again. Biden wants to give you a $6 trillion tax hike. He's going to give you the greatest, biggest, ugliest tax hike in the history of our country. Who the hell? You know, in the old days, when we were like a sane country, a tax hike meant you wouldn't win an election. Today, they can say, we're going to give you the biggest tax hike and people vote for them. I don't know. The country's very screwed up. But they're going to give you the biggest tax hike in history. But when I win, you're all getting tax cuts, because we are going to extend the Trump tax cuts and then some. Remember when we did the tax cuts, and then the following year it was announced that we took in record revenues because a lot of people came in, and they came in and invested in the country. It was a beautiful thing. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. There's never been an economy of any country that was even close to what we achieved in a short period of time. I will immediately end Joe Biden's war on American energy. We will quickly end his inflation nightmare. And we will drill, baby, drill. That's what we're going to do. We're going to drill. We're going to be, boom. We're going to drill. We're going to have a lot of energy. We're going to bring down the cost of energy. I don't know if you know it. We're drilling pretty much now because he kept my policies, because when he started closing everything, that is what caused the inflation and the mess. So he went back and he left my policies, but not really, because we were going to become the most dominant energy source in the world. You know, we have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country. And we were number 3 and number 4 when I took over. And within 2 years, we were so far above Saudi Arabia and Russia, which were number 1 and 2. You have to see the chart. They're like this, and we're like, ding, boom. This is me. I hear, bing. I got to put that chart up for people. You know, we put all these pictures of me. I'd rather have the chart up. How does the back of my head look? Is it okay? I'm like an artist. We like an artist. By the way, we're in bad times, but is everyone at least having a good time, right? On day 1, I will terminate Crooked Joe's ridiculous electric vehicle mandate. It's so ridiculous. They're wonderful, but they don't go far. They're too expensive. And, you know, I'm leading Michigan by 14 points. You know why? The auto workers love me, because I'm going to bring auto workers back. They're not going to Mexico. They're not going to China. And they know that the electric vehicle mandate, they know that that whole thing with electric vehicles, they're all going to be built in China because they have all the minerals and materials for them, and we don't. But we do have a thing called gasoline at a level that nobody has. And we're going to, and if you want an electric car, that's good. You know, when I won Iowa, the night I won, it was 40, get this, you don't know about this in Virginia. It was 40 degrees below zero. But because I won in the largest number ever, I love that temperature now. I love it. I think it's... But we're driving over, and there were so many cars pulled over. I said to Secret Service, what's the problem? Electric vehicle, sir. In other words, they don't work in the cold, and they don't go far. Other than that, I think they're wonderful. And they're very expensive. And what we're going to do is you're going to have an electric vehicle if you want it, and it's good for short trips, like to the candy store and back. Let's go to California, darling, and let's take a trip out to see Gavin Newsom and the job he's doing. Let's go to see how not to run a state. I will pass the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act. Very simple. If China or any other country makes us pay a 100 or 200% tariff, we will make them pay a reciprocal tariff of 100 or 200% right back. In other words, very simple. If you screw us, we screw you. Very simple. And if we do that, we will bring back jobs to our country. We will get rid of a large portion of our deficits. It'll be a beautiful thing. It'll be a beautiful thing. I saved the steel industry, although they let it go. How about U.S. Steel being bought by Japan? Isn't that wonderful? Can you imagine that? I wouldn't let that deal happen. And as tariffs on foreign countries go up, taxes on American workers and families will come down very dramatically. We do that, it'll get rid of a lot of our deficit. And we should. If people want to come into our country and take our assets and take our jobs, they have to pay for it. Let them pay 15%. Let them pay 15%. And you know what? It's a high number, but it's not high enough to change the world. It's not high enough. They'll still do business. But what they're going to do is, in order not to pay it, they'll build their plant in the United States, which is even better. And that's what China does, and that's what others. China doesn't want us sending cars over there. They put a 75% tax on. They put much more than that. They want us to go over and build a plant over there, and this way you don't have to. We're going to do the same thing. And we were ready to do it until COVID came in. We had the greatest 3 years. We were ready to do it, but then we had to do that. We had to figure. We made a trade deal with China, the best deal, probably even better than the USMCA, $50 billion worth of farm products and things. And unfortunately, I don't even talk about it, because when COVID came in, it was so bad what happened to the world. $60 trillion, millions and millions of people dead. That was a terrible time. And we did a great job, but we never got the credit on that one we should. We got credit for the economy. We got great credit for foreign policy. Look at North Korea. North Korea was ready to go to war, a big nuclear power. And we were great. I got along with them great. I get along with everybody good. They know you can't play games with me. Don't play games. We will restore law and order to our country. I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical, out-of-control prosecutor in America for their illegal, racist, and reverse enforcement of the law. This week, Joe Biden once again declared his intention to strip our police officers of their qualified immunity. You know what that is? No, can you imagine? I've got 100% of the police behind me. By passing a radical anti-police bill through Congress, that's the exact opposite of what they can solve our crime problem. We have to let them do their job. We have to give them great respect, let them do their job. They're very good. The sheriffs are here. They're all over the place. They all endorse me. By contrast, I am going to indemnify all police officers and law enforcement officials throughout the United States to protect them from being destroyed by the radical left for taking strong action on crime. Right? We're going to rebuild our cities into beacons of hope, safety, and beauty better than they've ever been before. We're going to reinvest in our cities. They're run by all Democrats. They're all run by Democrats, and they're run badly. We're going to deal with the Democrats, but they've destroyed our top 25 cities run by Democrats. They've destroyed those cities. San Francisco, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, San Francisco was like the greatest city in the country. Now it's horrible what they've done to it. Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, and then you have Oakland, and you have the other ones that have had long-term problems. But they're all run by Democrats, and they have been for many, many decades. We'll work with them. We're going to rebuild our cities, and we will also take over the horribly run capital of our nation in Washington, D.C., and clean it up, renovate it, and rebuild our capital city, get rid of the slums so that it is no longer a nightmare of murder and crime, but rather it will become the most beautiful capital anywhere in the world. What do you think these leaders come in when they come in to see the president and they ride over a road that's full of potholes and garbage? And the medians, you know, those metal medians that garbage, that you put them up 2 days later. I think the sun melts them or something. They expand and contract. They're laying all over the ground. But you look at all the filth, and you look at the graffiti on beautiful marble walls, and you look at what happened, and most importantly, you look at the crime and the murder. You leave, you go from Virginia, you want to take a trip through Washington, you end up getting shot, killed, or something. And it's a shame. We're going to be very strong. We're going to take over Washington, D.C. We're going to run it properly. We're going to get rid of the slums. We're going to open up our parks. We're going to have to get rid of the tent cities and the tents all over the place. You know, when I was president, when I'd drive by, if I saw 1 or 2 tents starting to form, I would send Secret Service and all of the other people immediately over there, get rid of those tents, because you could do it easily when you had 3 or 4. But then you'll have 10, then you'll have 20. All of a sudden, you'll have 500 tents, and it becomes a big deal. On day 1, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto our children. And I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate. I will keep men out of women's sports. 100%. And I will fully uphold the Second Amendment, our Second Amendment, and I did. I upheld it beautifully 4 years, and I will tell you, it's under siege. It's under siege, but I held it up, 100% held it up, and we need our Second Amendment. We will protect it always. We will also protect innocent life, and we will restore free speech. And I will secure our elections. Our goal will be one day voting with paper ballots and voter ID. But until then, Republicans must win. We have to win to get it done. And we want a landslide that is too big to rig. Too big to rig. That's what we need. Because they're going to be cheating, and they're cheaters, and we're going to be watching them, and we're going to prosecute. If we get in, we're going to catch them, and we're going to do things that were never done before. If you look and took the 10 worst presidents, remember, there's never been anything like this. You could take, it started off, I used to use this expression all the time, it started off with 5. Then I said, wow, take the 5 worst, it's not close. Then I said, make it 10, and still I could make it more. There's never been destruction like this done to our country before. Never. It's never happened. So if you want to save America, then go vote. Remember, the primary is Tuesday, March 5th, 3 days. And thank you, Missouri, and thank you, Michigan. And we have Idaho. You know, we have Idaho coming in tonight. We hear the same kind of a thing, like 100. We're going to get 100%. You know, Biden always calls Idaho. He called it 2 things: Iran. That's not. Yeah, and he calls it, right? He called it Iran. When I go to Iran, no, he meant Idaho, where they grow the potatoes. He called it Iowa once. I can understand that. That one we can let him get away with, right? But not Iran. Get everyone you know to the polls so we can send a giant signal and focus all of the time and energy that we're going to spend because we want to fire crooked Joe Biden. We have to get him out. We have to get him out. He's a horror. So in conclusion, there's a lot of people in this room. You go back to the corners. You'll go back, and the press tomorrow will say, in a room where the crowd was okay. Okay, the crowd was okay. Thousands of people outside, the crowd was okay. They are really dishonest people. We really do need a free press to make it really to fulfill what we want to do. An honest press. You know, I always say, take the cameras. You remember the old days? I gave up with it. It's impossible. Take the cameras and show the room. Look at the corner, packed all the way back to the walls. Everything's packed. Take the camera and show the crowd. They don't do it. Take the cameras, all those cameras, take them and show the crowd. They don't do it. You know why? They don't want to show the kind of crowd. Because nobody has ever gotten crowds like we get. MAGA, nobody's ever. And you know, it's very interesting. When I first started, we were getting big crowds from the beginning, very big. And I'd say, show the crowd, show the crowd. They wouldn't do it. And I thought it was, you know, very strong metal. It's new stuff, very strong. You didn't have the right, you couldn't do it, you know, because you have very powerful steel tranches. They call them tranches. And I figured they can't do it. Then one day there was a really nasty fight in the corner. That's a bad thing, right? And those cameras turned like spaghetti. They turned them around. And they're showing the fight, and MAGA's fighting. Actually, MAGA won the fight, very big, by the way, but that's when they turned the camera. No, but I thought, you know, I looked, look at those things, it's a solid piece of steel, right? And I figured they couldn't do it, but as soon as that fight, then I learned there's something going on. That's when I learned. That was just one of many things I learned. I learned a lot. Together, we're taking on some of the most menacing forces and vicious opponents anywhere in the world. And our worst opponents are the people within the country. You know, if you have a smart president, he can handle Russia. He can handle all of these countries. I did. I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. I got along with President Xi. Unfortunately, we had the problem that they caused, and I said it came from Wuhan, the Wuhan labs. Everyone said I was crazy. I said, no, it came right from the Wuhan labs, and that's where it came from. But we handled everything very nicely. The worst people to handle are the people within our country, the fascists, the communists, the socialists. They're very difficult people to handle. They're crazy. But no matter how hateful and corrupt the communists and the criminals are in our country, and they're fighting against me all the time, you must never forget, this nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you. It belongs to you. This is your home. This is your heritage. And our American liberty is your God-given right. So beautiful. Such a great place. This is such a great place, Virginia. Spent a lot of time in Virginia. Oh, I actually have an incredible golf course in Virginia. You know that, right on the Potomac. Ooh, Trump National. One of the best courses in the country. Goes a large part of the Potomac, right? Who knows where that is? It's in Sterling, right, with the beautiful waterfalls and the beautiful everything. And I have people that join just to walk up and down the river. It's miles. It's a great place. From Fredericksburg to Williamsburg, from Alexandria to Norfolk, and from Roanoke to Richmond, right here, Richmond. Virginia has been the home to some of the greatest American heroes ever to walk the earth. It's true. This is the place that gave us a gentleman named George Washington. How about they want to take the name George Washington off a high school? No, they want George Washington's name off a high school in California. That's terrible. And Thomas Jefferson, he's under siege. He's not going to be under siege with me. And James Madison and James Monroe gave you some of the greatest people in the history of our country. Virginia gave us Lewis and Clark. Lewis and Clark, think of that. Booker T. Washington, Ella Fitzgerald, the Bedford boys who gave their lives on D-Day, and Patrick Henry, who declared, "Give me liberty or give me death." Together, they helped build America into the greatest nation in the history of the world. So bad, so bad. But now, we are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has the highest inflation in 50 years, where banks are collapsing and interest rates are skyrocketing. Likewise, we are a nation where energy costs have reached the highest levels in our history. We are no longer energy independent or energy dominant as we were just a few short years ago. We are a nation that is begging Venezuela and others for oil. Please, please, please help us, Joe Biden says. Yet we have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country anywhere in the world. We are a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will be reducing their oil production while at the same time substantially increasing the price. And we met that threat by announcing that we will no longer be drilling for oil in large areas of Alaska and elsewhere on our precious land. We are a nation that is consumed by the radical left's Green New Deal. Yet everyone knows that the Green New not deal, it's scam. The Green New scam, it's a scam, is fake and will lead to our destruction. The Green New scam is indeed fake. We're spending trillions and trillions of dollars, and it's going to harm our future very greatly. We are a nation whose leaders are demanding all electric cars, despite the fact that they don't go far. cost too much, and whose batteries are produced in China with materials only available in China, when an unlimited amount of gasoline is available inexpensively in the United States, but not available in China. And now we are a nation that wants to make our revered and very powerful army tanks, the best in the world, all electric, so that despite the fact that they are also not able to go far, fewer pollutants will be released into the air as we blast our way through enemy territory in an environmentally friendly way. And they also want to make our brand new, beautiful jet fighters with a green stamp of energy savings, though losing 15% efficiency, but allowing us to keep our enemy's atmosphere clean of emissions as we viciously and unceremoniously attack them at levels never seen before. Who are these stupid people? Who are these fools that would do that to our country? Who are these people who would ruin our country? We are a nation that ended oil exploration and production in the United States just as the price of oil reached an all-time high. What other country would do such a foolish and self-destructive thing? Can we be energy independent and even dominant again? Yes, oh yes, says President Trump. We will soon be dominant again. We are a nation that surrendered in Afghanistan, leaving dead soldiers, American citizens, and $85 billion worth of the finest military equipment in the world behind, and also abandoning Bagram, one of the biggest military bases anywhere in the world, cost us billions of dollars many years ago. And it's only 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. And now China occupies Bagram. Congratulations. And we are a nation that allowed Russia and Ukraine to fight, killing hundreds of thousands of people. And it will only get worse under this administration. It would never have happened with me as your president, and for 4 straight years, it didn't happen, nor did it come close. Likewise, the horrifying attack on Israel would never have happened. They wouldn't even have thought of doing such a thing if President Trump was behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office. Would not have happened. Iran was broke under the Trump administration. They didn't have the money to fund Hamas or Hezbollah and all of the other instruments of terror that they have been funding for years. But those sanctions were lifted by the corrupt Biden administration, and now Iran is a rich country with $221 billion and another $6 billion for hostages that we paid, and $10 billion for electricity to Iraq. All compliments of the incompetent Biden administration. And China, with Taiwan, is next. We are a nation that allows radical left terrorists to violently attack our cities, leaving behind massive destruction and death, and nothing happens to the criminals that do these terrible things. There is no punishment, but when people who love our country protest on January 6th in Washington, they become hostages of our country, unfairly imprisoned for very long periods of time. We are a third world nation that has weaponized its law enforcement against the opposing political party like never, ever before. We've got a Federal Bureau of Investigation that won't allow bad election-changing facts to be presented to the public, and which offers $1 million to a writer of fiction about Donald Trump to lie and say it was fact. Where Hunter Biden's laptop from hell was Russian disinformation and the FBI knew it wasn't, but 51 intelligence agents said it was, and a Department of Justice that refuses to investigate egregious acts of voting irregularities and fraud. And we have a man who is totally corrupt and the worst president in the history of our country, who is cognitively impaired in no condition to lead, and is now in charge of dealing with Russia and possible nuclear war, which would be World War III and far more devastating than any of the previous world wars because of the weaponry that no one even wants to think about. We are a nation that no longer has a free and fair press. Fake news is all you get, and they are indeed the enemy of the people. They refuse to discuss the Biden crime family, but enjoy covering the false indictments of Donald J. Trump, who has done nothing wrong except win an election that he wasn't supposed to win. We are a nation where free speech is no longer allowed, where crime is rampant and out of control like never before. We are a nation that is allowing Iran to build a massive nuclear weapon and China to use the trillions and trillions of dollars it has taken from the United States of America to build a military to rival our own. And less than 3 years ago, we had Iran, China, Russia, and North Korea in check. They respected us. They were afraid of us. They weren't going to do a thing against us, and everyone knows it. And now Russia and China are holding summits to carve up the world. And perhaps most importantly, we are a nation that is no longer admired, respected, or listened to on the world stage. We are a nation that, in many ways, has become a joke. And we are a nation that is hostile to liberty, freedom, faith, and even to God. We are a nation whose economy is collapsing into a cesspool of ruin, whose supply chain is broken, whose stores are not stocked, whose deliveries are not coming, and whose educational system is ranked at the very bottom of every single list. We are a nation that just sold a once great company, United States Steel, to Japan. We are a nation whose stock market's continued success is contingent on MAGA winning the next election. The market goes up when we go up. When my polls go up, the market goes up. We are a nation where large packs of sadistic criminals and thieves are allowed to go into stores and openly rob them, beat up and kill their workers and customers, and leave with armloads of goods but with no retribution, where the authority of our great police has been taken, where their families and pensions have been threatened, and their lives would be destroyed for the mere mention of the words law enforcement. We are a nation where fentanyl and other forms of illegal drugs are easier to get than groceries to feed our beautiful families. We have become a drug-infested, crime-ridden nation, which is incapable of solving even the simplest of problems. We will institute the powerful death penalty for drug dealers, where each dealer is responsible for the death during their lives of 500 people or more. Mothers will never again be forced to watch their children overdosing and hopelessly dying in their arms, screaming, "What can I do? What can I do? My child is dead. What can I do?" We are a nation whose once revered airports are a dirty, crowded mess. You sit and wait for hours and then are notified that the plane won't leave, and they have no idea when they will. Where ticket prices have tripled, they don't have the pilots to fly the planes, they don't seek qualified air traffic controllers, and frankly, they just don't know what the hell they're doing. We are a nation that screens its citizens viciously at the ports. But if you're an illegal alien, you are allowed to flow through by the millions and millions and millions. We are a nation that has lost its confidence, its willpower, and its strength. We are a nation that has lost its way, but we are not going to allow this horror to continue. 3 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again. It was is hardworking patriots like you who built this country, and it is hardworking patriots like you who are going to save our country. We will fight for America like no one has ever fought before. 2024 is our final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. And we will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media. We will drain the swamp. And we will liberate our country from these tyrants and villains once and for all. And like those incredible patriots before us, we will not bend, we will not break, we will not yield, we will never give in, we will never give up, and we will never, ever, ever, ever back down. With your support, we will go on to victory, the likes of which no one has ever seen before. We will evict crooked Joe Biden from the White House, and we will take back our country on November 5th, 2024. The great silent majority is rising like never before, and under our leadership, the forgotten man and woman will be forgotten no longer. You will be forgotten no longer. We are one movement, the greatest movement in the history of our country. One people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. And together, we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you, Virginia. God bless you. God bless you, Virginia. Get out and vote. Thank you. God bless you all.